All right, let's dive into a story from ancient wisdom, and this one's a classic. It's all about how one tiny, simple mistake can have, well, huge consequences. It's a story about charity, sure, but it really gets into the critical difference between just doing good things and something much deeper, real devotion.
So here's the big question, the mystery at the heart of it all. What in the world connects a king who was famous for being incredibly generous to a giant lizard stuck in a well? I know it sounds completely random, right? But believe it or not, the answer reveals a universal law that honestly affects every single one of us.
Okay, so picture this. We're in the ancient city of Dwarka. Lord Kṛṣṇa's sons are just kids, playing around near an old, dried-up well. And they're about to find something, well, something that is just plain impossible. Something that has no business being there.
And can you imagine what they saw? I mean, really, down in this well, there's a lizard, and it's as big as a hill. Your first thought is, how? How did it even get in there, a creature that massive? They try everything they can think of to pull it out, but it's no use. It's totally stuck. So naturally, they run to get their father.
So, Kṛṣṇa shows up, and this is where things get wild. He just reaches down into the well, and with one single touch, boom, the lizard is gone, instantly transformed. And standing there instead is this radiant, celestial being covered in jewels, wearing a crown. So okay, mystery number one, the giant lizard is solved. But now we have an even bigger question. Who is this guy?
This being bows down, and he starts to talk. And what he says is it's a shocker. He reveals that he used to be one of the most famous people on the planet. But it's how he introduces himself. That's our first big clue, our first major lesson in this whole story. He says, I am a king named Nṛga. Now, you have to understand, this wasn't just some king. This guy was a legend, a household name, famous everywhere for his incredible charity. But instead of saying, you know who I am, he says, perhaps you've heard of me. That one word, perhaps, it changes everything. See, in the original Sanskrit, the word is yadi, which means perhaps or if. And let's be real, he's not actually wondering if the all-knowing Lord has heard of him. Of course he has. This is the language of pure, unadulterated humility. Think about it. After all that time suffering as a lizard, every last drop of pride has just been burned away. He knows he was famous, but he's not claiming that identity anymore. He's not the great donor. He's just a humble servant.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. How does a king this good, this pious, end up as a giant lizard in a well? It just doesn't add up, right? Well, the answer is all about the law of karma, that incredibly complex system that's always running in the background, tallying up the consequences of everything we do. Think of karma as this giant cosmic ledger, a system of cause and effect. Every single thing you do, good or bad, creates a reaction. It's perfectly balanced, perfectly precise. The old texts call it Gehana, which means it's super intricate, almost impossible for us to fully wrap our heads around. And King Nṛga learned the hard way that this system is, well, it's completely unforgiving. It doesn't care if you didn't mean to make a mistake. And his mistake was so small, so unintentional. Here's what happened. King Nṛga donates a cow. Just one cow out of the millions he gave away. But somehow, that one cow wanders off and finds its way back into the king's huge herd. Later on, the king, totally unaware, gives away the exact same cow to a different person. Well, eventually the two new owners bump into each other, and a massive argument breaks out over who owns the cow. And that dispute leads to a curse being placed on the king. Just think about that. One tiny, accidental clerical error buried in an ocean of good deeds, and it was enough to bring him down completely.
Okay, so if karma is that strict, that black and white, it kind of sounds hopeless, doesn't it? Is there any way out? Is there another option? And King Nṛga's story shows us that yes, there is. There's another way. And it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about why you're doing it. It's all about your intention. And this other path is called bhakti, which basically means devotional service. It's when you do something not to rack up good karma points and not to get a pat on the back or have your name on a plaque, but you do it purely out of love, for a higher purpose. And in this system, what counts is your sincere heart, your intention, not whether you executed the task perfectly.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just crystal clear. Karma demands perfection. One little slip-up, and you are tied to the consequence, whether it's good or bad. But bhakti? Bhakti relies on your sincere intention. It doesn't tie you down, it sets you free. It's a system that works outside the strict rules of law. and it opens up this incredible possibility of mercy. I mean, think about it. King Nṛga's millions of donations, done under the laws of karma, ended up binding him. But one single touch from Krishna, an act of pure mercy, liberated him in an instant.
And this power of mercy comes from a divine promise, which is that a truly sincere act of devotion is never lost. It's never forgotten. Even the tiniest little thing you do, if it's done with love, is remembered forever. And that provides this ultimate safety net, this protection that lets you rise above that otherwise unforgiving cycle of karma.
All right, so let's bring this all together. What are the big takeaways from this pretty wild story? King Nṛga's fall from grace actually teaches us some really deep lessons about what it means to be truly great.
For starters, true greatness isn't about your resume, right? It's not your list of accomplishments, it's your humility. It also makes you ask yourself, hey, why am I really doing this? Is it for the applause or is it for something bigger? And the king's story is a huge reminder that even with the best intentions, you still got to be careful. You have to be conscious of your actions. And maybe the toughest lesson of all is that sometimes suffering can be a good thing. It can be this purifying fire that just burns away all the pride and ego that's weighing us down.
And that really leads to this final amazing point, which is summed up perfectly here. See, humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's not about making yourself small. It's about making yourself an empty container, a vessel that's big enough to actually receive something incredible, like divine mercy.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's the real goal here? Is it to build a legacy so that people remember our name and all the great things we did? Or is it to go through a transformation, like King Nṛga did, and become a humble servant, one who's ready to receive a kind of mercy that makes all our mistakes irrelevant? It's a really powerful question to sit with. Thanks so much for diving into this with me.